on the SportsMap Radio Network.
Presented by Rocket Mortgage.
Live from the O'Reilly Auto Parts Studios, here's Jake Asman.
Let's talk some football right here on the program. And to do that, we go out to our Progressive guest line right now. Drivers who save at Progressive save over $750 on average. We bring on former NFL quarterback, one of the star quarterbacks in the history of the Penn State football program. Matt McGloin joins us right now. Matt, appreciate the time this morning. How are you?
Hey, what's up, man? I appreciate the kind words. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. So I want to get to your career and whatnot, but I was thinking about this. So you were the guy at Penn State for a couple of years there. When you see now guys able to, make some money off name, image, and likeness, of course, do you picture the kind of dough you could have made when you were still in school?
No, to be honest with you, I really don't, man. And for me, it just, obviously it wasn't an option at the time, but, it didn't really even cross my mind at Penn State. You got to understand the position that I was in, man. I was a preferred walk-on. So for me, earning a scholarship was focused. And then, a year later, when I earned that scholarship, the goal then became to become a starting quarterback at Penn State. So, I wasn't thinking at all, about I could be making money as a starting quarterback, or I can be, doing commercials or anything like that, man. It was just about being the best player that I can be, growing as a leader, growing as a team, trying to win football games, man. And and to be honest with you, it was about Penn State. I wanted to do my part. I wanted to be part of that university, part of that program, part of that team, and just, do my job and contribute, man. And even, sitting here right now, man, I'm just, thinking about where, college football is headed and the direction that it's heading. And I'm not a fan of the whole name, image, and likeness thing. I really hope it doesn't take away from how pure, the game of college football really is.
What could be, the potential negative effects of the name, image, and likeness rules being put in place here?
Well, I think first and foremost is, you're handing these 18 to 22-year-old kids, potentially tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars. I mean, there's NFL players that can't handle that type of money, right? I just think, it becomes more. I hope it doesn't become more about the money, right? I mean, college football is an exciting atmosphere. It's an exciting environment. And it's about these kids chasing their goals, chasing their dreams, playing because they love the game, playing because of their schools, playing because, they enjoy the rivalries that they have with their opponents, right? I hope it doesn't become a business for these student athletes. And I hope fans, and media, I hope we don't see it as, hey, these kids are paid athletes now, so they should be treated any differently. I hope it gets to that point.
Matt McGloin, former quarterback at Penn State, played, of course, in the NFL as well with us here on the Jake Asman Show. His podcast, the Pay Dirt Podcast, covers Penn State and the Big Ten. You can listen to it now on the Believe Podcast Network. So, Matt, let me ask you just about your time at Penn State. I know, of course, you were there year one of Bill OBrien, and after an 0-2 start, I remember watching that year, you guys turned your season around, winning 8 of your last 10 games. Take us through what that year was like, and obviously, all the controversy following the end of the Paterno era.
Oh, I still think about that 2012 season, because we could have easily won 10 games. So to this day that haunts me. But I mean, it was an incredible year. You were 8-4, but I don't think that record was indicative of how good that team was or how special that team was. We had a lot of talented guys, a lot of talented players. I say this all the time when I'm asked about it. We had good football players, but we had great people, and everybody just wanted to contribute that season. They didn't care about what their role was, big or small. They didn't care if they played offense or defense or special teams. Everybody just wanted to take that field and a football team, win games. Yeah, you mentioned 0-2. It was tough. We really had to find out what we were good at, especially offensively. Really running that NFL style offense with Bill OBrien, and that took some time. And to have a guy like Bill OBrien and his staff, to have a guy like Craig Fitzgerald run that strength and conditioning program, it was just like people there at the right time. And the support we had from family, friends, alumni, students, former players, man, was just tremendous. And in terms of that offense, and speaking strictly about football right now, talking about that offense, I kind of feel like Penn State right now is in that similar situation with their new offense, new scheme, and that it's going to take some time to kind of really learn what you're good at in this new offensive system under new offensive coordinator Mike Yurcich now. And that's something that this Penn State team doesn't have right now is time, because as we all know, they kick off week 1 in Madison, Wisconsin against a very, very tough opponent in the Wisconsin Badgers.
Man, I covered Bill OBrien here in Houston for 3 years. And, I always felt that Bill OBrien was a better coach than maybe people realized. Obviously, it all went sour when they gave him full control and he became the general manager. But as far as him as a coach, what was he like then? Because he that year that you played for him and turned Penn State around in 2012. I mean, he was the national coach of the year. He made Christian Hackenberg look great the following year. What was Bill OBrien, the college football coach, like?
Yeah, I mean, look, he'd always say, in game preparation, leading up to game day, it was his job to give you the answers before you took the test. So you were fully prepared when you went out there Saturday. You know where to go with the football depending on coverage. You know your alerts. You know your checks. You know when it's time to run the football. You know when it's time to throw the football. And, I was lucky in a way that, he gave me full control of the offense. He went out there, and if I had to change a play, he let me change a play, It was our job as quarterbacks under Bill OBrien to run good football plays. And he said that all the time. He's like, it's your job to get us out of a bad play. We want positive yards. We want to put our offense in a position to be as successful as we can be every single play. And I think it's quarterback, offensive coordinator, quarterback coach, quarterback head coach, whatever it may be. I think it's those relationships that make your teams that successful. Right? Because you're working towards one common goal. It's not, hey, this is the way it is and too bad. And I've been a part of offenses like that. And, and I've struggled in offenses, because of that. So, that's the most important thing is just, the ability for these coordinators, these coaches to trust their players every single play and know that, we know what we're doing out there when it comes to playing the game of football.
Matt McGloin with us here, former quarterback, of course, at Penn State, played in the NFL. The Pay Dirt podcast and the Believe Podcast Network is out now covering Penn State and the Big Ten. Now, let me ask you just about Bill OBrien in Alabama now. Of course, he gets a chance to coach a loaded offense under Nick Saban. How do you think Bill will do as the OC at Bama?
Well, we'll see, right? I mean, look, again, he's a very smart offensive mind. He does such a good job of understanding what he has in terms of players, right? What he has at the wide receiver position, what he has at the quarterback spot, what he has at the tight end, position, the offensive line position, the right back position. He does a good job of knowing what his personnel is and building plays around those guys, right? He's not going to call a play unless he knows you're 100% comfortable with that play. And, just sitting here looking back on it now, we did a lot of that stuff. We did a lot of the same concepts, a lot of the same plays. Now, obviously, we dressed it up with different formations, different motions, things like that. But, in my experience, he's going to stick to what you're good at as a football team. Now, over the course of a few weeks, if you continue to get better at, different plays, different concepts like that, then you're going to incorporate those in the offense. But, with us and the way we were at Penn State, we ran a lot of the same stuff because that's what we were good at, and we had a lot of success with those plays.
Matt McGloin with us here. So, Matt, when you transition to the NFL, you're the perfect guy to ask. There's 5 rookies that ended up getting drafted in the first round this year. What's that adjustment like? What is the biggest adjustment going from college to the NFL?
I think it's just, the ability to be consistent every single day, right? When you're in the NFL, you can't afford to have bad days, especially at the quarterback position. You have to be on every single day. You have to be well prepared every single day. You can't miss, right? You can't make the same mistakes today that you made yesterday. You have to move on. You have to find a way to correct those mistakes in a hurry. The ability to have confidence, really, to walk into that huddle. And, you may be staring at a guy that's been to the Pro Bowl 4 times. You may be standing next to an offensive lineman who's, 35 or 36 years old that's been playing 15 years. But you got to know when you walk in that huddle that, listen, this is my huddle right now. We're going to rally around one another. We got to go play some football. You guys got to trust me. I know what I'm doing. Let's go be as successful as we can be. So, there's a lot that goes into it. You got to make the most of the reps that you're given. And you got to make the most of the reps you're given mentally, standing in the back, just going over what you're seeing, taking yourself through plays, taking yourself through progressions. That way, when you get that opportunity, you can make the most of it.
What were your thoughts on getting the opportunity to play in the XFL? Obviously, it ended, because of COVID, and it was unfortunate, especially here in Houston, Matt. We were all into the to the Roughnecks down here in H-Town. But what was the experience like getting a chance to be the quarterback for the New York Guardians?
It was great just to have the opportunity to play the game of football again. Now, for me, it was about trying to get back to. I felt like I still had something left in the tank. I still felt like I could play at a high level. I appreciate the opportunity that the New York Guardians gave me, that the XFL gave me, that Kevin Gilbride gave me. Unfortunately, the XFL ended the way it did. But I really do think that is a league that can work moving forward. We had a lot of talented guys on our team. We really, really did. Guys that have the potential and talent in the NFL. They just, it's hard in being in the NFL because, like I just mentioned, you don't get a ton of reps. You know what I mean? You may get a handful of reps here and there, so you really don't get to show or prove, that you belong on an NFL roster. So I think if you go the XFL route, you can learn to develop, learn how to watch film, learn how to be a pro day in and day out. So hopefully the XFL is a success when it kicks off again, because I think it could be a good alternative route for a lot of these college athletes that want to play professional in the NFL.
Matt, tell us about the podcast. Once again, the Pay Dirt podcast. It's on the Believe Podcast Network. Give our listeners a feel for what you guys are talking about.
Yeah, so I've done a lot of work for SiriusXM, ESPNU, Big Ten Radio. So this just the transition into this Penn State football, Big Ten football podcast that Tom Hannafin and I are doing is just, basically breaking down Penn State football, things to look forward to, what to expect now during training camp, position battles, things like that. And then obviously as the season grows closer, we'll break down games, break down opponents, preview opponents, and as much as we'll be talking about Penn State, we're going to be talking about other teams in the Big Ten as well. Like I said, especially once the season kicks off. So, we're trying to have fun with it. It's kind of a laid back, relaxed show. Yeah, man, listen, if you're interested in Big Ten football and you're interested in Penn State football, I suggest taking a listen.
Matt, appreciate the time, man. Big fan of yours. Thanks so much for a couple minutes this morning.
Hey, anytime, man. Thanks.
Matt McGloin, former NFL quarterback, of course, played at Penn State under Bill OBrien, joining us there on the Progressive Guest Line. Good stuff with him. Once again, the podcast, the Pay Dirt podcast on the Believe Podcast Network. He joined us on our Progressive Guest Line. Quoting home insurance has gotten easier with Progressive's Home Quote Explorer. Quote and buy all online at progressive.com.
Pushing the odds with Matt Peralt.
Conor McGregor now